Hey, welcome back to the Mom Chit Chat. Today we're kind of digging into some topics that you can say have been blooming in my heart. I know it's been a while. Now I'm figuring out my own schedule, but I want to dive right into some thoughts just kind of been turning and going over in my head. And it's more about whether it's in your yard, your motherhood, your relationship to your children, or your relationship to God, right? Are we preventing, are we protecting, or are we pursuing, right? And each one requires us to do different things. And over at my church, we were kind of talking about this, and my pastor gave an example of, okay, so in our yard, right? If we don't do anything, grass will grow way too tall. Weeds are gonna start growing. Some plants are gonna come in, right? I have some vines in my front yard that are growing up on my house right now. And technically, we don't plant the weeds, right? We don't plant the bad things. But if we're not doing anything to protect or prevent that from happening, if we're not taking active action, they will grow anyways. And I thought this was such a great example as far as our relationship, any relationship that you want to take a look at. I think it counts for a relationship with God, our relationship with our children, our relationship with a spouse or our family, right? So it's I was thinking, I have some notes, I'll be looking at my notes, of course. So are we actively planting good things, or are we just avoiding planting bad ones, right? Because sometimes I'll think in my religious journey, I'm I'm not committing sin. I'm not doing anything bad. But is that good enough, right? Because if you think of if you start dating somebody, if they're just not doing bad things, is that good enough? Or would you want them to pursue you? If they're just if they're not committing bad things, is that a good enough standard, or would you want somebody to pursue you? And I think in that way, God wants us to pursue Him. Our children want us to pursue them. So it's not just I'm not beating my kid, I'm not yelling at my kid. Okay, so you're not planting bad things, but what are you doing to make your garden grow? What actions are you taking to flourish that relationship, to make that bloom, whether it's towards God, towards spouse, towards your children? So are we passively waiting for the weeds to show up, or are we regularly pulling and maintaining? And I think this has a lot to do with our boundaries that we set, right? Because I have a very bad habit about not setting boundaries when it comes to anything. And I'm working really hard at it this year. That's one of my focuses. And, it's I feel like I'm digging in my own garden and I'm pulling up the weeds, and it's so interesting because I was just doing some yard work as well. When you try to pull a weed, you can't just cut it off, right? That does work for a little bit, but if the roots are still in there, it's gonna grow back and will probably spread as well. And so you actually have to dig deep, pull it all out, which will usually churn up the soil, right? It's gonna pull up other things. It's gonna make things, so it gets a little uncomfortable. And how do we get comfortable in that uncomfortable? To patch up that area of our soil, of our garden, of our relationships. And so in that, I'm also trying to pursue this new relationship with God. It's not a new relationship, but I want to start pursuing that relationship. I think so far I've been in an idle mode of I'm not committing any sins. I'm not doing anything bad, but I'm yes, I go to church on Sunday, and yes, I pray, but I want to do more for myself, right? Because I think if we can live in God's words, it's the fruit of the Spirit, right? The more Spirit, the more belief, the more faith you have, the more fruit you will see. This is such a gardening little episode. It's the more we can do and open ourselves up for God to use us as a vessel towards His bigger plan, more fruit will bloom in our own lives. And I know I have seen that time and time again, but then we get busy, we get into these things, right? All this stuff starts happening, and then I forget. And so I'm in this reminder of okay, I need to do more than just protect my lawn, my relationship with God, my parenting. I need to do more than just not do the bad things. It's not just enough not to plant the weeds, but it's important to maintain it and then also pursue it. And I want to do more of that, because I know when I actually devote time towards something very specific, right, I see it flourishing. I see the fruit of the Spirit. I see the fruit coming to fruition. I see it coming, focusing my time into it, if that makes any sense. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And so in our walk with God, right, are we just avoiding sin, or are we actively pursuing him? And what does that look like for you in your life? For me, I want to set my boundaries of like, okay, I want to pour time into myself, because into doing the chit chats and getting through all of this and getting to start that conversation, opening up my Bible more, doing more of the reading, right, finding the truth and spreading it. I've also wrote down this idea for a Bible for Kids episode, so like similar as Paisley's Corner with Silly Miss Lily, but more like Bible focused. And my daughter really loves the Bible. We were reading it last night and she taught me something. I was like, whoa, girl, she knows so much. It's so wonderful to see. But I'm trying to figure out, okay, like I was going back and forth and I was like, oh, I don't have time for it right now. You know, all this stuff going on. We're already on a tight schedule with episode going through, and I'm like in the mom mode. And then with this whole idea, I think more speaking about it, and I'm like, I need to make time for it, right? I need to make time to clear out the weeds, make time for the good. And this other idea of the pursuit. I want to make sure I'm pursuing my relationship with my kids. I want to pursue my relationship with God instead of letting it just kind of like being on a steady flow of, well, I'm not doing anything bad. It's like, well, what are you doing to actually pursue it? Kind of like if you're working at a job, I think I've spoken about this before, but like if you're just doing the bare minimum, that doesn't necessarily qualify you for a promotion. What are you doing to pursue a higher calling? What are you doing to pursue your journey, right? What you're meant to do, what God is calling you to do, what you feel like your calling is. And I think there's a richness that comes in it, right? Because when I do things that align with what I want to do and I feel like I have a calling for, like this podcast, there's like a ringing that happens, and I'm like, no, this whole idea with the garden thing has been swimming in my mind for such a long time. I'm trying to figure out how to even put in like a Paisley's Corner episode where maybe Cotton's like, I'm not planting these weeds in my yard, but they keep showing up. And it's like we talk about the metaphor of like, well, what we need to do more of just protecting and preventing. We also need to pursue a wonderful garden, same as a relationship with God. Or maybe it's for the Bible episode, the show, but I feel like I love that message. There's so much to it, not sitting on idle. And then, so I wrote down like holding myself accountable. So hard questions of like, am I pursuing that relationship with God, or just passively keeping him in view? It's like, am I just saying, oh, I believe in God, all of those things. It's like, what am I actually doing to pursue it, to really make it come to fruition? And same with like, am I pursuing connection with my kids, or just managing the behavior and checking off the boxes? Like, yes, we woke up. Yes, we went, like our to-do list, we got it done. I want to make sure I'm always pursuing that relationship with my kids. And I do the same with my spouse, because I've poured so much into my kids. I've definitely forgot to pour into myself, and with my husband as well. And so just kind of thinking about those ideas, and I'd love to hear what you think as well. And that somehow got me going to like how we are so good to normalizing habits or adjusting to new things, which is so interesting, because when I think of like, how do I start a new habit? I want to do this, but I don't know how to make time for it and all of this. Like, when I think about it, it kind of seems so difficult. Yet when I think of examples of when I had to change things and new habits have come about, it just happens and we get used to it and it's totally fine, right? Like if you're a parent of two, maybe you were worried about when the second one comes along, but the second one comes, it just like, you adapt, you figure it out, and it's like, whoa, I can't see it not being this way, right? We adapt so quickly to habits. And I was thinking about the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, where he finally gets into the Christmas land and he's like, what's this? What's this? There's magic in the air. What's this? What's that? Okay. There's a part, he looks through the window, they're like, what's this? They kiss? Oh, that is so unique. And I thought that was so interesting, right? That perspective, because he grows up in this Halloween town. And so all he's used to is being, he talks about like, there's no monsters under the bed. They're only used to the scare and the horror, and because they're grown up in that, those are their habits, that seems normal. So when he sees this Christmas land, it's so out of the world to him. It's so different because it's out of his habitat, out of his habit zone, right? He's not used to any of that. And so it's interesting to see, right? So he's in his Halloween land, and he's like, well, this is the best thing ever. He sees the best, the worst, and like the parameters of it, right? But he hasn't even seen this whole other world. He hasn't seen any of these habits and what it can do in the perimeters of that. And so thinking how we can adapt to literally anything in the world we live in, if it's stress, numbness, or just going through the motion. And I think that can be such a big part of postpartum, right? Because there's so much that happens with our hormones, right? There's so much reflection that happens as we learn how to parent, as we maybe look back and reflect of how we were parented or weren't, right? We're seeing lots of things and having a very different understanding. I think there's a part of knowing who we were before becoming a parent, and if we don't take the time to kind of say almost bye and like grieve the end of that era, there's the missing of like bouncing back and wanting to go back. But like there's some things that we still can do as parents, but we weren't a parent and we are a parent now, right? So there's like a whole switch that happens, a very new chapter with very new habits. But through postpartum or anxiety or depression and sleepless nights, there's such a period of survival mode for many, and we get used to that because we're just trying to make it, right? And I think it's important that we because I absolutely love motherhood. I love being a mom. I absolutely love it. But for a while, I didn't even express any of the difficulties of it because I had guilt about it. But I think it's important to understand, yes, you can love motherhood, and yes, there are really hard times. Like both can coexist at the same time. It's figuring out, okay, how are we dealing with this? What is even going on? I wish I had friends through my really hard postpartum because I was so blind to so many things. Anyway, so we adapt wherever we're going through. What are we normalizing in our homes, in our habits, and in our hearts? And I think this is where it becomes like those people that I have seen have really great boundaries, seem to, again, my experience, just like witnessing things, seem to do really well in creating healthier habits, right? I follow this mom. She does such a good job. She's like, no, I'm going to take my time in the bathroom and get ready. And for the longest time, I couldn't make myself even get ready because I'm like, no, if the baby cries, very early on, I feel bad for taking the time for me instead of giving it to the baby. And this goes for absolutely everything in my life. I've realized I have very big anxiety about it, trying to deal with it, but I would watch her over and over. She's like, no, these are my boundaries. And she deserves that, right? She's a human, of course, everybody should deserve to have the time to do the things they want to do. I couldn't picture myself doing it, and I recognized that I was like, oh, I'm feeling jealous that I wish I could make that time for me, but I didn't realize I didn't set those boundaries. Because if I set those boundaries from the very beginning, everyone just gets to know that that's the way it goes, right? When we set boundaries and create a routine that's healthy for everybody will get used to it and get adapted to it, as we do with anything else. It's like in the morning we wake up, we eat breakfast. She had made it such a thing that in the morning we wake up, we eat breakfast, mom gets ready. Everybody just knows it's a part of the day. And so I want to focus on and ask you, what is it that you want to focus on carving that time out and creating it as a habit in part of your home that fills your cup. And at first, it might seem like you're Jack in the Christmas land. We're like, wow, this is so unique. But what would you want those habits for you to be? I saw some mom share that she started doing her 30 minutes of alone time before bedtime. So it's everybody eats dinner, mom gets 30 minutes. And she's like, sometimes I shower, sometimes I bath, sometimes I just scroll through literally, but uninterrupted 30 minutes, and then she starts her bedtime routine. So there's no rushing or being upset or anything. It's she gets her time in, then she does all the rest, and then continues with her day. But she's plugged this in as part of her routine, and everyone just adapts. And from what she's expressed is everybody is so happy, right? Because she's not stressing, she's not putting her kids in flight or fright by accident, right? When we're hurrying them, telling them, it's if kids need to get to sleep, it should be a calm setting. If we're ever you need to go to bed now, it's hard to go to sleep in that setting. But I love that she had created that little habit for her. And so now I'm on this path of okay, what habits do I want to create in my life, right? Yes, it might be a little unique, but if I open up this door, what new world can I really discover? In which perimeters, right? Because Jack in Halloween land, he went from just knowing it's Not very scary, super scary in Halloween. Little did he know, a whole other world appears. I wonder how all these things just kind of come about in my head sometimes, because I'll read the things, because this was like for 2 weeks thoughts, and I'm like, what was I thinking about here? Another thing I wanted to share, which I found super helpful, I was thinking maybe to do a reel for others, but because for a while I didn't get ready or anything, when I did start getting ready, I had like expired makeup. I switched from 20 skin to 30 skin. I didn't know what to do with my skincare routine, and I'm still figuring it out. But it's so popular to see everybody is like morning skincare routine, evening skincare routine. You're exposed to so many products, and it's so hard to figure out, because it's like, well, what kind of skin do you have? What other products do you use? You know, we all have such different skin. And so I turned to ChatGPT and I took a picture. I found this foundation that I really loved. And so I was like, hey, I'm using this foundation. Can you help me figure out which like primer would go for it, which moisturizer? And I kind of trekked back, choosing one item that I did love. Because I've seen it where I've liked my skincare, but I try a new foundation, but my foundation doesn't lay with my skincare. And I've had it the same way where it's like, I find this foundation I really love, but if I don't prep my skin right, like if it's water mixing with oil, they're not gonna blend well. And so I wrote down some things that really helped me that I wanted to share of how you can use ChatGPT to create your skincare menu essentially for you. And I'll read you some of them in case this is helpful. So you can take a picture. This is what I did. I was like, hey, here's my skincare lineup. Can you build me a weekly routine? So it's like, because I got a little confused as to like, when do you serum? When do you what like retinoid? I was a little lost. And so I was like, these are the products I have. Can you tell me best way to layer them, use them, what time, when don't I do it? But I use the products that I already had. And then you can also, branch out from that. It's like, hey, I have these. Which product could you recommend for me to complete my routine to make sure I'm really getting in the right stuff? So help me skin. One, here's my skincare lineup. Can you build me a weekly routine and just drop a picture? If you have a product like a moisturizer you really love, hey, I love the moisturizer. Can you find me some budget-friendly dupes, right? If you're getting into like the finances as well, which I love, because there's a foundation I really liked and it's expensive, so I was like, what are the dupes? I think matching with the foundation is really difficult, and some people are way better at it than I am, so I applaud them. But if you are not like me, you can send a picture of you like in front of a window, so it's like super fresh face, super light makeup. He's like, can you match me? And then if you have a specific foundation in mind, like, hey, somebody was really raving about Charlotte Tilbury foundation, you can ask it to match you by the picture, and it'll get all the tones, kind of give you the feedback. You can also include things, so it's like, hey, I have combo skin, but sometimes it gets dry. Can you help me build a budget-friendly routine for it? And ChatGPT will go through and kind of figure out, okay, for this, maybe use this, but don't use this. So another helpful tip, if you're at the store and you're kind of figuring it out, like, do I need this? I saw somebody recommend it. You can send a pic of it again to ChatGPT. Like, hey, how does this fit into my current routine? Or would this replace a certain product? Or can I get rid of the product? I sent a picture of all my things and I was like, hey, which one of these is like doubling up, canceling each other out? What can I get rid of? What's doing the exact same job, just to kind of help clear it up? And so I did the picture of the products, help me build a weekly routine. I love this. Another one was, I love this product. Can you recommend a budget-friendly dupe? That one works really well. And it seems like ELF or ELF has most dupes to like the really good products, which I found interesting. I also did hey, I really love this foundation. Can you recommend me a similar one, and what would be the match in it? And kind of, ChatGPT is really good about giving you prompts back, but I think using it for your skincare routine can be so helpful. Because I was like, hey, I have this moisturizer that I really love. Does this mix? Oh, you know what? Asking about the formula matching is really helpful. Did I write this down? Oh, I'm thinking of trying this whatever foundation, right? Based on the formula, will it work for my current skincare routine, right? Because it's like if your foundation's oily it's oil-based, but your moisturizer's water-based, they're not gonna mix well, they're not gonna blend well. Separately, completely, but I saw somebody say that aloe gel works really well as a primer, and I haven't tried it yet, but I thought that makes sense because when you put it on, it's like a little sticky, but aloe gel is so protective, it's so good for our skin, so I wanted to try that, and if anybody's tried it, let me know. But I thought, wow, so smart, instead of a primer, so it's like your foundation sticks, your skin's protected. You can also set a budget for ChatGPT. So it's like, hey, can you help me find full skincare, based on this product or based on this recommendation under $100, under whatever. And another thing I asked for was the layering, because I started getting to like the vitamin C serum or retinol, whatever. Like, and so I was like, hey, how do I layer this? And actually, it was like more helpful to see it. I saved it in like a notes folder. I was gonna print it out to just put on the wall, be like, hey, use this, done. This, and this, done. And then you can also do comparisons. So again, if you're like shopping and you're like this serum or this serum or this serum, you can put them next to each other, take a picture, like, hey, comparing based on formula and the ingredients, if I'm experiencing, I'm looking for something for this, and this, which one would help? And I found that so helpful trying to figure out my skincare routine, because I've gotten it down to like, I still get super influenced when I see people do like, hey, I really love this foundation, I really love this. And then I want to try it because it looks so flawless on them. But when I do try it, it doesn't agree maybe with my skincare. Some people call it skin prep now. I wanted to find out the difference between those. I think prep is like the primer, so like to make sure the skin looks good as a canvas for the makeup. So, but I thought, hey, if anyone's looking for skincare recommendation that would be more precise, try ChatGPT, because I found it so much easier to like figure out the serums, figure out my own list. Oh, here's just something that happened that I wanted to share, and this is so silly, but I'll share it anyway. So we were at this festival, and it was my mother-in-law. My husband was up front. I was holding, he was with the kids walking, and I looked down and I found $100, and I was like, that's $100. And so to my mother-in-law, I was like, Patty, that's $100. And there's a group of people standing right there, and two of them saw me, noticed it, and I saw them. So I was like, looked at them. They didn't react to it in any way. I was like, okay, not theirs. My mother-in-law, we were like, Patty, her name's Patty. So Patty and I are looking around. I was like, hey, it's $100. I'm looking around. Nobody's looking. Again, I checked in with the group. They weren't looking. I looked around. I was like, well, let's go see and turn it in, because it was like a $100 bill. Somebody's looking for it. I would think it wasn't that group that was standing right there, which I was like surprised by, because they were looking. They didn't. I was like, cool. And so I was like, well, let's go turn it in. If anybody says they lost a $100 bill, instead of like, hey, whatever, right? Like, it would, I don't know. So we were on our way, and then as we're walking away, I overhear this group. It's like a boys, well, they're like 20s. One of the friends telling another friend, and he's like, oh, that girl just found $100. And he's like, no way. And then they're like, what, they were just kind of sharing the news. And then we kept walking, but then one of the guys came over and he's like, hey, my friend lost $100. And we're like, oh, and he's like, did you guys find that $100? And I was like, I don't know what it is. Like, looking at him, and because he was from that group, I recognize him as the boy who was like receiving the information. And it really seemed like he was like, oh, they found $100. I'm just gonna go get him and I tell him I lost it. Because I've heard his friend was like, oh, they were looking for somebody who lost it. And so he like repeated the words back. And so me and Patty look at each other, and I know she knows that he's lying about it. And I know he knows, like, I don't know, but it really seemed like he was like, he just heard that somebody found $100, he's gonna go grab it for sure. But it felt like it wasn't his, like to a point where I want to be like, you're lying right now, to like a grandma. Patty was holding the money. So, but we were like, oh, we were gonna turn it in. Like I almost got scared that like I took the, and so I was like, oh, like, and he opened up his wallet. He's like, see, I don't have the money. He opened his wallet, but he was like, my friend lost the money. And it's like, if it was the friend's money, wouldn't have he had come up if that was the case? And like, many things said it wasn't his or the group's money, but we gave it to him. And then as Patty and I are walking away, we're like, that wasn't his money. And she's like, I know, like she also knows. And I kept thinking about it, and I was like, why am I, like, it wasn't my money, we found it, right? So it's like, nobody took my money away from me. Although I would have for sure given it to Patty, but like, Patty, here, it's $100, like, of course, it's a lot of money. And so if it was somebody's from that group, it's just like, they would have been looking for it. They would have, but here's what I kept thinking, because I was like, why am I so like, caught up on this? Because Patty and I just kept making jokes about it. But as I kept driving home, I was thinking, I was like, why am I so like scared of conflict, right? And I know I am, to even confront it, right? Because if he was lying, I could have easily just said, no, like, you're lying. You're clearly lying, But I like, even in that situation, I was like, oh, of course. And so I was thinking more about it. I have a really like difficulty standing up for myself, even when I'm right. Like, I don't even do like anything bad, because the anxiety of thinking that I just like it doesn't go with me, and but I really struggle like standing up for myself for things, even when I'm right. And I know it. This is such a long story, but I kept thinking how here's like. So that sometimes the hardest person to stand up for is yourself. And I find that some people have such an easy, great time with it, where they like are very sturdy, like they're very sure in it. And I love that, and I admire to get it. But I was thinking like I couldn't even stand up like for Patty to be like, no, because I love for her to have the money, or for me, or to tell somebody like, no, you're not telling the truth. I was just like, yeah, whatever, like we handed over the money. But I was thinking how maybe it's this realization at least, right? That's like, I need to be more firm in things in regards of like, it's not about that money, but in the very beginning when you talk about like that pursuit of God, right? Like God is never nervous, and I believe that I'm doing my work through God. I should be so firm and steady on that I shouldn't even feel nervous, whether it's about saying if somebody's lying and calling them out on it, or about, I just feel like I get nervous about everything, and I hear all the different voices in the situation, but I want to get to that place where I'm like, if my faith is so strong and I'm so rooted in it, right? Like, and I'm pursuing God, doing things the right way, and be, I should stand strong and sturdy through that. And that kind of gave me like a little more of a confidence of like, wait, no, but that's right. Like I'm not, if God's not worried, I shouldn't be worried, right? Like God's behind me. And that was like, I don't know, like I hope that makes sense. But to circle all of it, and I was thinking how it's not about having a perfect yard, right? I think it takes all of the what did I say? I like the protect, prevent, and pursue, right? So it's like it takes all three in your garden, and you gotta figure out, okay, when do I cut the lawn? When do I weed? When do I add the mulch? When do I plant new flowers? When do I plant new trees? Oh, this didn't work, let me dig it out, let me put it back in. But like as a garden, which is always like evolving process, right, through the seasons, which I think is such a beauty in it as well. We get to see like plants rest, we need to rest. But so, and then applying that into our life, right, where it's like, okay, I planted this tree, it was an invasive tree, let me get rid of that tree. Oh, I haven't gardened, weeded this area, let me really give attention to it and pursue it a little bit more, right? And maybe there's a balance in that, like which area do we pursue at a time, put the other ones in like protect, prevent, and back and forth, and putting our time in different things. It's like yourself, your children, relationship with God. So it's not about like how great your garden is, but it's like how well do you take care of your garden and your life and your things. I hope that made sense. I'm so happy to be doing the Chit Chats again. Last week at church we were talking about how when you don't know what to do, come back to the things you know. And I made a joke inside my head, and I was like, I just love to talk. And I was like, oh, and I've been, I write these ideas to share, and so I get excited about this. And so I'm like, wait, maybe, I just need to sit back down and chit chat. I hope you have a great week ahead. Let me know in the comments what you thought about all of this. And you know what? If you want to share some things like that you want to pursue or focus on, or like what things you want to grow in your garden of life and you want to share them with you, I'd love to read them over and, help you pray for them. And I'd be interested to know what you're growing in your garden, right? Like what do you want to make time for this year, this week, today? It doesn't have to be, what do you want to pursue? I'd love to hear that. So, all right, have a good week, and I can't wait to do this again and chit chat.